pop pop pop. Ba da pop pop pop. Ba da pop 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 pop. Hey, look at that. People and blogs. VirtualBox on Ubuntu. What? That's not the fucking name, you fuck. JavaScript Hive program. Save. And where is my link? Base. Boss. Link. Linky. Linky. Stream health. How do I? What in the shit? Stream URL. There we are. YouTube. R2. Sure. Sure. Waves. Back to home. Cooking something cool. What the fuck? Waves. Go to waves. I will. What? Just waves? Seriously? Oh my god. Whatever. Whatever. Script. Publish. Okay, so I think in theory we are live. Yes, this is my. Oh, yeah, this is my. Wow, that's from 15 days ago. Okay. So, anyways, the thing we are in right now is this pile of goobledygack nonsense. Spin it up. Start. We land on here. We do a login function, as it says right here. You know, you gotta read. It's a text-based game after all. If you've arrived here by accident, do not have a Hive account, please make your way to Ecency. That's this guy over here. You won't be presented with this because you'll need to create an account. Yeah, anyways. So once you've done that, you can use your just main account name. You will need to have keychain installed. Key management tool for Hive. So as long as you have that logged in with your new account and your keychain, then you can go log in and your username, and you will be presented with the login room. Now, let's pop over here, and we're going to do Hive Explorer. So the way this works is all of our game assets, that's our room descriptions that you can see here, gorged cliff path, nestled into the side of the mountain along this path, almost stamped into it as wide as is a wise set of stone doors. Upon their brow, the letters, "In code we trust," declares as if to the rest of the world. Looking outward from the path and down is a steep descent, sheer and dangerous, but the cropping in front of the door extends out wide enough for safety. So that description there and the name of the room, as well as this exit here that is present, those are all considered assets of the game. That information is stored on the game account. You can see it here. This is all of the information here. So these permlinks, these are permlinks. Genesis, Scaffold, Precipice, Gorged Cliff Path. These permlinks are to particular posts. Um, in this case, you can see that the author of this post is myself. Um, and so if we navigate to that, here, let me see if I can do it this way. So if we navigate to that post, descending a path, gorge cliff path, this is the one that we're looking at right now. This is where the actual information is stored. So you see that we need the author, and we need the permalink, and that will get us this information, the title of the room, and the description of the room. Now, the exits and the way in which each one of the rooms is connected to each other, that is stored on the game account as well. That's this Hive community account. All of that information is stored inside this array, which I'll actually bust out for you guys. It's just JSON, so we can JSON lint, so we can pop it into a JSON compressor, and we can just kind of prettifies it a little bit. So the way that we're managing data inside here is we have a list of rooms. Each one of the rooms has a property author, a property players, and a list of a set of properties with the named exit. This is pretty important in terms of how the client itself is set up. The first, like the key of that entry needs to be the named exit. That's the direction that it goes. Okay, so in the case of the gorged cliff path is down from the Genesis scaffold precipice. We could change that structure, but I think for the time being that works fucking fine. Yeah, so a little bit of lag in the stream, but that's fine. So we can take a look here, and like this is we're only at for the client itself, we're only at 317 lines of code plus the assets, another 28, another 23, and another 39. So we're literally under 4. Bless you, baby. Under 400 lines of code. There's probably a bunch of stupidity in terms of how I set this up. We're using React as a framework. Yeah, I'm just kind of initializing all of my libraries that I need. I'm initializing, well, I mean, I just store this Hive node because I use it multiple times. So I just store this Hive node, initialize client, which is dhive, initialize keychain, which is our key management. The main reason for key management is I don't have to touch your guys' keys then. Hive keychain does it really well, and I've never had any problems with it. It integrates decently once you wrap your head around how to go about doing so, but I will admit it was a little bit of a hassle to get that working. Window onload. This is all just initialization for both of those, dhive and keychain. The first thing that we have here, this game greeting, that's just that opening screen that we see when we launch the application, when we land on the page, that very initial one. That's this. And yeah, we just show that to the user. It's kind of a greeting sort of thing. It's recognized as a greeting in here, and we have a flag in here that gets flipped when it's already been fired. Fetch game data. So most of our functions in here are asynchronous, just because we're working with promises, and yeah, you can see we're getting the game account here. We're getting that JSON metadata that we were just looking at on the Explorer here. This posting JSON metadata. That's what we're grabbing when we run that function, and we store that into this game JSON object. Okay, game JSON storing it. Yeah, so we parse out specifically this like you can see how we've got a bunch of different keys inside the lint explorer. We've got this ego death game data, rooms, authors, and exits. I'm imagining that we may have more keys that we need to add here as we expand the game. So that's the reason that I did this structure, is just like specifically this list is rooms, authors, and exits. The reason for storing authors is that we have to have the author name for a room to make the permalink useful. We can't reference, like it's actually possible for somebody to post a post on Hive with the exact same title name as someone else, and that's just fine as far as the entire blockchain is concerned, because it's going to use both of those key data to access it. Yeah, so the reason that we're using this structure is we may add another key in here under ego death game data, and obviously ego death game data is not necessarily the only key that will ever be stored on this posting JSON metadata. We might have a profile data. If we take a look at my account, we can see that posting JSON metadata stores a bunch more information like name, there's an about entry, there's a cover image, so on and so forth. You kind of get my point. Moving along through the application, I know I need to do some error cleanup in terms of handling errors if this fails and passing those errors properly to the user, so on and so forth. I haven't done that yet. This output, that's literally just the function that gets called whenever something gets output to this window. Yeah, it's just kind of our handler. Actually, we can look at how. Let's see here. We can, in our component, we can look at how that gets handled. So we're storing every one of those entries as an array inside output. And yeah, I've got a couple flags that get handled if it gets bolded or not. When you probably noticed with the room exits and with the room title, you can see here it's bolded. That's how I'm doing that. It's true. And then I don't know what this one is actually. Interesting. I should take a look at that. But yeah, you can see bolded gorge cliff path is true. That's the reason that it's displaying as true. Up, bolded is true. That's why it's displaying as true. So that's all that function is. Just takes, we use a callback. That's the React integrated use callback. And yeah, we use this output function in a number of places. A const is empty. I have a singular place in which this is being used right now. It just checks if there is keys within an object. Yeah, it can be useful, but whatever. Updating player. So my hope was to kind of define this arbitrarily enough that we can use it for a lot of different things. That may be a bad idea, and I might need to refactor that, but for the time being, we take all of these options optionally. So we can set a description, we can set a short description, and new location, that's for moving the player. So that's just the structure here. I know it's a little yucky in terms of how it looks, but That's just the structure here of the object we're defining, which is the user profile JSON. So depending on what it is that we get, we've got a kind of ternary running here. If we get a description, then we're going to set that description. Alternately, this is the default description, so we can just leave that the same if nothing's set and nothing is being set. Short description, same thing. Location, same thing. This is the default location. Genesis Scaffold Precipice is the starting room, and that's the reason for that being present. We delete reputation because obviously reputation changes. Every vote, reputation gets changed. We will be integrating reputation in terms of ignoring people, but haven't done that yet. We're just setting up the actual object that we're firing, which you can see here. We're just setting it up to make sure that it's accurate. Username, technically we are altering this. Actually, are we? No, we're not altering this. Never mind. Yeah, username is it's just duplicated. I have thought about whether or not we're going to use the display name as opposed to the username, but I think it makes it more confusing for the user in terms of logging in, because they're always going to have to use their username as their login. But we may have a chat about that later. And then obviously we await for that to complete. We catch an error, throw if that's the case. And this function depends on keychain and user profile JSON. User profile JSON does get fetched later on, but we never use this function before that anyways, so that's fine. Yeah, fetch player data. It's right here. The main funkiness that happens inside this function is just we look over the game JSON room. Now, actually, this structure is going to change a little bit because I just recently implemented storing player locations on the game data as well as the player data. So we're not actually going to need to do this part later, but I haven't done that refactoring yet. Yeah, move player, that's exactly what it sounds like. You need the permalink of the location that you're moving the user to, moving the player to, and then we just, remember I said this update player function is defined really nicely arbitrarily. So we're just changing this location, and we accept that new location as a parameter. This set is loaded player. That's our true false flag for whether or not the player data is loaded. That's the reason that that gets set here. Room data, that's, sorry, I should have gone through that up here in this fetch player data. Room data is the data for the room that the player is currently in. So that's what that's for. So we need the body, we need the title, we need the exits. Permalink, like technically we don't need it because it's actually just the same as the title, but yeah, I'm storing both. So permalink is title, but it's just lowercase and dashes for spaces. This handle enter text thing, this function is probably pretty overzealous, and it's going to get yuckier before it gets better. But this just basically handles, yeah, entered text. So if you're punching something into here, that's where it's getting processed. So you can do a @describe, which lets you set your description. describe short, which lets you set your short description. Look at the room that you're in. That just shows you the room again. And this one, I need comments on this, but this is the move function. That's when the player moves. So the reason for the named exits, like the directionally named exits, is that all you're doing when you move a direction is you're just typing up. That's all you're doing. So it looks through that list of exits when you do so and sees if what you typed is one of those exits. If that's the case, fires move player with that exit and yeah, proceeds. If it fails, it might say, no, I removed that, never mind. Handle sign in, that's pretty obvious. I'm just calling our login function with keychain. Sign out, that's pretty straightforward too. Clear the username, set signed in as false. Very easy. Checking player, this is like a matching thing. I don't think I need it anymore, but I haven't removed it yet. This is where we're checking to see if the user has been greeted yet. Remember that initial greeting screen? And then we have four use effects that listen for is loaded game to change. We listen for username to change, because when username changes, then we can fire our handle sign in. We listen for is signed in and is loaded player to change. At that point, we can fire fetch player data. So once the user has signed in and the player is not loaded, that's what we're watching for there. That exclamation is not. Then we can fire fetch player data and set is loaded player true. The final thing that we watch for is displayed. This is actually the main thing that I'm having trouble with right now. Is I've got a bug that I haven't sussed out that displays rooms multiple times, and I think it's present inside this flag and how I'm handling it and so on and so forth. So we'll go through that. And then this is our HTML. That's the whole thing right there. So obviously we have our components, text input box. That's just this little box right down here. This one is our sign out button. So that handles this stuff right up here. If we sign out, then yeah, that's part of that. But also that handles this icon up here and so on, and the signed in thing. Game output, that's exactly what it sounds like as well. Now we're defining our interfaces. That array that I was talking about, references, just so that we get, so I always make sure that this scrolls down to the most recent input, and we need a reference to do that. And yeah, I think that's it, actually. Alright, so I'm going to shut the stream down and yeah, get offline.